mean, my job is really, or part of the job is to look for similarities, right? So I often talk about, how similar Korea and Sweden are when it comes to, the gaming industry or innovation and so on and so forth. I have to say that at the same time, culturally, we are not fundamentally different, but you can see lots of differences in the Swedish and Korean societies. And one thing that I think you're struck as a Swede here, we are a fiercely individualistic country, fiercely individualistic, and Korea is much less so, right? Family is more important here, more at the center of things. But I think, in a way, it's an interesting thing because we can learn a lot from how the different societies operate. And sometimes I'm struck also because we're both so successful, and we have competitive industries, we have world-class culture, world-class music, but we come from very different historical and cultural standpoints, and this puzzles me. And I think it just shows that there are many ways to succeed, right? Countries don't have to look the same or do the same things. You can get to the same result from very different backgrounds. Oh, I have a long list.
Please share.
But the really good thing, and I think I'm not alone, in saying this, but Korea is so dynamic. It's at the cutting edge of lots of new technologies, lots of new innovations, and Sweden is as well. So I think maybe the most interesting area right now when it comes to Sweden and Korea relations is collaboration in areas of new technologies, cybersecurity, space, potentially artificial intelligence, and quantum. And these areas, I think, as a diplomat, I think they're interesting because they're kind of at the intersection of technology and innovation, but also security policy. These are technologies critical, not just for the economy, but really critical for national security. So I really hope to establish new and lasting collaborations in these areas between Sweden and South Korea. It's a big part of the agenda, and I think it's two parts really. One is what we do in terms of international commitments towards net zero, and so on and so forth. But between Sweden and Korea, we also have an active collaboration between Sweden and Korean companies. Swedish companies sees this as a competitive edge. They want to be in the driving seat when it comes to the green transition, and I think it's the same with Korean companies. We have in Sweden, for example, we've started to produce green steel in northern Sweden. SSAB, a Swedish company that is doing that, highly successful and a good project to show how industry can redesign itself to be more green. But this is happening here as well. POSCO has its own technique and technology to go in the same direction. So there's been lots of contacts between POSCO and the Swedish green steel company. So that's one example, and I think there are many more. First, just briefly on the Jamboree, which was an interesting experience, I think, and I just spoke to actually a member of the Korean government recently to also convey that Semangum had certain challenges. We all know about that. There was the weather and so on and so forth. But the Swedish Scouts, we had the fourth largest contingent, 2,200 Swedish Scouts. They had a great adventure here. They were happy, and they left with really a great impression and good memories, I think, of Korea. And as you said, they handle the whole situation with a lot of humor, a lot of own initiative, and good spirits, right? This was by pure chance, actually. It's a retired Korean diplomat, Lee Sung-lak. I don't know if you know him, that has been championing this world calligraphy event, and I was asked if I could provide something. You know, I was of course happy to do so. My original intention was to write it in Swedish, of course. What I did provide was a part of a Swedish poem. If you go to the War Memorial here, you will see that those lines etched under the Swedish flag there. But my Korean teacher insisted that I try also to write in Korean, a challenge, you know, as you can imagine, but that fantastic experience. I mean, if I'm sure you've tried calligraphy like most Koreans, but it clears your mind a little bit when you're there with the brush and the empty sheet of paper. And we try and do many things when it comes to culture. First and foremost, we have a film festival here, and we do this in many different Korean cities. We do it in Busan, we do it in Daegu, we do it in Seoul, we do it in Daejeon, and this year we have, I don't know if you've seen it, Ruben Östlund's Triangle of Sadness is the lead film for this year's Swedish Film Festival in Korea. I think that's probably been one of the strongest experiences, not just this year, but since I came here. And I tell my colleagues in Stockholm and my friends that quite often. I'm deeply impressed and moved by the way in which Korea not only commemorates its own fallen heroes and its own history related to the Korean War, but the way you honor those sending states that came to Korea's help during the war, and Sweden is of course one of them, and that was on full display in Busan for the commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the armistice. For us, it's an important part of our identity here in Korea, and I think it's an important part, continues to be an important part of Swedish-Korean relations. And as you know, we still have there are not very many, but we still have Swedish and Swiss soldiers up in Panmunjom. That is, you know, making sure that the armistice is followed, and you know they've done so day and night since 1953 now. So for us, the armistice is not just a historical thing; it's also very present, I think, in today's Swedish-Korean relations. I spoke earlier today at a forum on gender equality. I explained the Swedish model, I explained what we do to promote gender equality, to promote women's active participation in the labor market, and so on and so forth. But I also cautioned that Sweden is not perfect, it's not a paradise. We have certain challenges as well, and we certainly have as much to learn from Korea as Korea may have to learn from us. But I think you and I have talked about it before, but an underreported story when it comes to Sweden and Korea is how closely linked the music business is. And Swedish producers and songwriters have been working with K-pop artists since the very beginning. The story that I am told is that SM Entertainment and the like, when they started out, they traveled the world to see where they could find inspiration and collaborations. And not every country was immediately, or not everyone was immediately open to working with Korean producers, but Swedes were. And this has created a long-lasting collaboration between Swedish and Korean music producers. So I think that's an interesting aspect in the relation between Sweden and Korea. Not all of it has come about by government intervention. This is And a lot of our relation happens without, without the governments or without the embassy being involved. But that said, it's an interesting part of what's going on right now between Sweden and South Korea. Apart from the major sites such as Stockholm or Gothenburg or the beautiful island of Gotland, I am very favorable to the north of Sweden. My grandparents come from there. You go up to the north, you can see the northern lights. You go up to a place like Kiruna, Jukkasjärvi, you can stay in this famous ice hotel, only available in the winter, of course. But that I think is definitely worth trying. As for Swedish food, depends, of course, on your tastes. But I would highly encourage Koreans to try traditional Swedish fish dishes, salmon, herring, and so on and so forth. Then there's this one dish that is clearly an acquired taste. It's a specialty from my region called surströmming, heavily fermented herring. You have something similar here in Korea, I think, hongo. So if you take that and you add an extra amount of fermentation, you will have some idea what this Swedish dish tastes like. But for those who are adventurous enough to try, they should definitely go ahead and try some surströmming. It's best eaten outdoors and not indoors. We don't have a mid-autumn, we don't have a Thanksgiving. We have midsummer in Sweden. That is one day. The Swedish midsummer is more of it's a very festive thing. People go out partying, in addition to hanging around with their family. I think the Chuseok has a more traditional aspect to it, but we have those traditions as well back home. I think the best advice is to pursue your interests broadly, to keep an open mind. I started at the ministry in 2002, and if there's one thing I've learned throughout my career is that you end up in situations that are unexpected and where you don't really know which part of your experience or part of your skill set is going to serve you in that particular situation. So my main message would be to really, pursue what you're interested in, but pursue your interests broadly, and I think that will serve you well. That's not only true of diplomacy, I think it's true in a broader sense. Thank you so much, and can I just finish also by saying how much I personally, and I think we as a government, we really appreciate the work you do at Asia Society. It's stimulating to participate in your events. It's encouraging to see everything you do, and I think you play a very important role also for the next generation of Asian leaders.